I'm reaching out to feel the infinite. I'm reaching out to know the divine. I'm reaching out to feel the infinite. Yeah, forever is already mine. I'm already there. I'm already home. I'm already safe in my eternal soul. I'm already there. I'm already home. I'm already safe in my eternal soul. And I'm going deep to feel the infinite. I'm going deep to know the divine. I'm going deep to feel the infinite. Yeah, forever is already mine. I'm already there. I'm already home. I'm already safe in my eternal soul. I'm already there. I'm already home. I'm already safe in my eternal soul. And I'm rising up to feel the infinite. Oh, I'm rising up to know the divine. I'm rising up to feel the infinite. Yeah, forever is already mine. I'm already there. I'm already home. I'm already safe in my eternal soul. I'm already there. I'm already home. I'm already safe in my eternal soul.
Thank you, musicians. I just love the way this service starts with a song like that. Ooh, so good. Good morning. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Santa Rosa. My name is Nancy Reynolds. I'm the president of the Center's Board of Trustees, and I am delighted to be here with you to welcome you this morning. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to extend a very special and warm welcome to you. And for those of you who are watching online, whether that's the 9 a.m. live stream service or the recording again at 11, or anytime during the week, you can watch that service again. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. So that's also a reminder to everyone in the room. You can watch this service again at any time on our website at cslsr.org. I would like to thank you all for honoring our safety requirements. You all look just fabulous in those masks, just beautiful. Thank you. It's because of you and our safety requirements that we're able to meet again, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. every Sunday. So thank you again for that. I'm pretty excited to be here. Are you all happy to be here? Yeah, right? Right, okay. Thank you. There are several ways you can contribute your financial support to the center. You can give online on our website or on Facebook. You can also send a check to the center. And last but not least, for those of you in the sanctuary this morning, when you exit, there will be folks with baskets where you can drop your donations on the way out the door. We are a community-supported organization, and we truly appreciate your generosity. At the Center for Spiritual Living in Santa Rosa, we are motivated by a vision. It's a vision of a healthy, loving world. The vision is known as the global vision, and it calls us to imagine a world that works for everyone. Within that vision, we see a world in which every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with the divine and connection with one another. A world in which individually and collectively, we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. At the Center for Spiritual Living Santa Rosa, we support this vision through our shared values. And I'd like to share those with you this morning. They are, first, spiritual living, which is, oh, by the way, right in the title of our Center for Spiritual Living. As we learn and practice our teaching, the science of mind, we live principle-centered, spirit-led lives, and we turn to our principles for guidance in the moments of our day and in every area of our lives. The next is integrity. We embrace the quality of being honest and strive to let our inner convictions match our outer actions. We express wholeness, honesty, and fairness in our relationships and activities. The next is love. We embrace love as the self-givingness of life to all creation, moving through us into expression as compassion, caring, mutual respect, kindness, and selfless service. And finally, compassion. We express interest in and support for the well-being of ourselves and others. We express unconditional love when observing the suffering of others and do what we can to give aid and show compassion. Spiritual living, integrity, love, and compassion. Let's take those values with us as we enjoy the rest of the service. The music, the prayer, the message, and in being with our community. May you find exactly what you need for the next steps in your spiritual journey. Welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Hello, I'm Tara Steele, Community Minister here at the Center. I invite you to join me in prayer. Taking a deep breath in and letting it go, coming fully present in this moment. There is one life, one power, one all in all in all. Beyond time, beyond form, beyond our wildest imagining. And that one incredible isness is intimately present, expressing in me in this moment as me. And as that is true for me, it is true for every single person in this sanctuary, in this community, in this country, around the planet. There is no place where spirit is not. As I speak this truth, I know for this service the power of sitting together in spiritual community, the ways in which our individual voices and prayers and longings empower a radiating good in all beings. I know that the flow of this service is easy and powerful, that everyone here receives exactly what it is they came to receive, and that this blessing continues throughout this day. Knowing this truth, I celebrate it, and I am so very grateful. With that, I release this word into law, into that power of yes. And together we say, and so it is. I love to pray. Here is the affirmation for this month. I am a force for good. The free-flowing wisdom of divine intelligence gives me insight and inspiration. I am the love of the one in action.
Is it in the sunlit meadow? Is it in the rocks and trees? Is it in the blue and yellow? Is it in the one who sees this radiance I recognize even when I close my eyes? Is it in the words you've spoken, as trackless in their flight as birds? Is it in the silence broken? Is it in between the words? This living truth you make so clear, the speaking stops, but I still hear. And I cannot see how I missed this before. Who I am is always here, of this I am sure. Is it in the circumstances? Is it in the quiet mind? Does it only come in glimpses? Is it an event in time? This peace that permeates my mind, my moods, these changing states. Is it in your form that I hold so dear, or older than your ocean eyes? When you walk away, does it disappear? Could it be so localized? This love which no one claims. You come, you go, but it remains. And I cannot see how I missed this before. Who I am is always here, of this I am sure. Is it in the sunlit meadow? Is it in the rocks and trees? Is it in the blue and yellow? Is it in the one who sees?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Christopher Fritchie and the gentlemen of the band. It's fabulous. I noticed that we've got a baby dancing in our family room, and it just makes me so happy. So welcome. We are moving along in our month of Rising Above, and the talk title for today is Transcend and Include, and it's a kind of a funky title, isn't it? I didn't write it. These are all titles that come from our global vision and our global themes. But this is actually one of my favorite talks to give. One, because it's a little autobiographical, and I have to be a little vulnerable and open myself up to you. And before we can really get into that, well, I guess we are kind of getting into it. So let me just dive right in and pull the Band-Aid off and confess. I have to confess. And I love confession because it's so freeing, it's so liberating. I hear some laughter. I don't know if everybody agrees with me on this one. I was a jerk. I was a jerk. Hopefully nobody's thinking, well, you still are. But I was a jerk, especially when I was working in information technology. I was a jerk. And it's something that I own now. I really own it because I did a lot of work to recognize how I was impacting others with my jerkness, with my jerkitude, whatever you want to call it. And I was a jerk because I felt safe being that way, if you can believe that. And that wasn't a product. I mean, it was happening because, I was really stuck in that safety despite being in my spiritual practice. I mean, I discovered New Thought over 10 years ago, and I really dove into it. I dove right into classes. I dove going to every single Sunday service that I could go to get the message, but I was still a jerk. And the reason that I was still a jerk is that I could only see people through the eyes of mistrust. My view of people, my worldview was that of mistrust, shame, personal shame, but also really just only seeing the negative in other people. And the good news is I finally began to shift. The bad news is it took a pandemic for that to happen. And what I'm really recognizing now is the moment when I started to shift. And the moment that I started to shift was in my IT career. And it was maybe a few months into the pandemic when we were all starting to shelter in place. And I had a lot more time on my hands to do some self-reflection. And I was given a problem. And as I've mentioned before, I worked for Chicago Public Schools, and we were the third largest, we still are the third largest school district in the country. And that means that there's 300,000 students, 25,000 teachers, probably another 10 or 15,000 administrators, contractors, helpers. There's a lot of people in that community there helping to make school happen. And the problem that showed up, not just for me, but for everybody in my department, indeed everybody in our central office, because I worked in the central office in IT, was how are we going to do school when kids can't actually physically be in school? And we certainly were not the only school district that had this problem. Every school district in the country had this problem. And let me tell you, I have so much mad respect for all of our teachers and finding ways to get through that because it was really, really hard. So what I was tasked with doing was figuring out how can we use our Google Classroom product, which was a product that's designed by Google to, it was actually co-developed with Chicago Public Schools, believe it or not, to help our teachers to better engage with their students, even though the students couldn't be in school physically. This is something that nobody really had ever done before. Trust me, we asked. We checked like, hey, New York City, what are y'all gonna do? And they're like, I don't know. And we checked with LAUSD and LA's like, I don't know. We all had kind of like, we were building the plane as we were flying it, as we so often said in our meetings. But what I had to really get into relationship with myself about was that if I continued to be a jerk, continued to separate myself from other people and to see the worst in people, do you think that I would have succeeded? That's what I had to ask myself. Like, I don't think that I'm going to succeed if I continue to be this way. And moreover, it feels kind of crappy to be this way, to be perfectly honest. So we'll come back to the outcome of that story in a little bit. But what I recognized having to work with all of these teams and knowing that there had to be a different way to do this was that, first of all, we all tend to see the world through different eyes, don't we? Yeah? And we especially see other people through our own view of the world. Sometimes there's judgments around that. Sometimes we have opinions. I don't have lots of opinions. But we all see through different eyes. And that's because our experience of this world, this reality that we live in, it's shaped by a lot of different factors. Shaped by our upbringing, by our community. Sometimes it's shaped by our inherent genetic traits. Sometimes we're more predisposed to act certain ways because of our genetics. And the events of our lives, all of these things contribute to build the filter through which we interpret the world around us. And the challenge is that a lot of the time, and this was certainly true for me, we don't always take time to examine how we are viewing the world. And moreover, we don't always examine to see, is the way that we view the world actually healthy? So my old worldview was wanting to feel safe. It was basically created to keep me safe, to keep me limited so that I wouldn't have to be judged by other people, so that I wouldn't have to judge myself, so that I wouldn't feel like I was failing in the world. In fact, I was deathly afraid of failure. So much so that oftentimes I'd be like, here's this really amazing idea that I am not going to do because I might fail. Here's another really amazing idea that I'm also not going to do because I might fail. It was really hard to take risks. But all of that was really a product of my inner fear, my inner mistrust of the world around me, and my mistrust that there is an inherent good within each and every one of us, especially myself. And so I was pretty isolated. So imagine being in the middle of a pandemic where we're already isolated, and now I'm having to work through another set of isolations. It was not fun. But what I had learned is I had learned to limit my view of the inherent good that is all around us, that is within us, that is especially within other people. And that helped me feel safe not because it's true, not because there isn't inherent good or because people are not trustworthy, but because that was the norm for me. Isn't it interesting how what is normal, even though it may not be healthy, can feel safe? Yeah. So let me define what I believe health to be for you, because I'm going to use that term healthy a lot today. Health for me is that which uplifts us in life and that which does not cause harm in our lives. And that goes for ourselves personally, but it also goes for the impact that we have on other people. So, I might be doing a lot of things that feel super healthy for me, but if I am creating holy terror around myself with the people that I love and the people that I work with, then I'm actually not being healthy, am I? I'm creating more harm than good. And I really had to come to terms with that. But the good news is what I found is that our view of the world actually can change. We get these eyes, but we actually can change that filter through which we view everything that's going on around us, no matter how bad it gets. Objectively speaking, no matter how the world might look like chaos, we can still find our way back to divine order. And that's where I feel a lot of our spiritual work is at. It's that transcendence. There's the first word of the talk title, our transcendence of our unhealthy ways of being. The problem, though, is that we often forget to include, that's the second word of our talk title today, include the lessons and the underlying needs and values that are wanting to be expressed by our sometimes unhealthy ways of looking in the world. Our views of the world, they're valid for us. They really are. But our work is to look at them without judgment as best as we can, and to really get real about what is actually being needed here. My need to feel safe, that's actually a universal value. All of us want to feel safe, don't we? Yeah? Anybody here like giant risk taker is like, no, I'm good with not feeling safe. I'm just going to go jump out of a plane after this talk. It's cool. No, most of us want to feel safe. Like, I mean, even that example, if I'm going to jump out of a plane, you better believe that I've done training. I've done a bunch of tandem jumps, that I am going to a reputable company that knows how to like pack a parachute so that I can do it safely. Even in these extreme examples, we still want to do it safely. And that's a universal need. That's something that I think we can all agree that we value feeling safe. So even though I was expressing my need for safety in an unhealthy way, that actual value of safety itself was present. So my work was to transcend beyond being a jerk, but also to not forget that, oh yeah, I do have this feeling, this desire to feel safe. And maybe that means that I need to create healthy boundaries in my life so that I'm not being overloaded, so that I'm not getting stressed out. And it's different for everybody. You know, it's not a universal experience that I'm talking about here. It's my personal experience. But that was a really deep realization for me to realize that, you know, while the way that I was acting was not really healthy or conducive to showing up in a way that's efficient and helpful and is going to be transformative, nevertheless, there are values there that we can take with us, and there's lessons for me to take. So what I realized, and this was based on a lot of feedback that I had over my IT career, can tell you I had many performance reviews. And by the way, if you manage people, please don't wait to a performance review to give your honest feedback of your employees. please be in that constant cycle of feedback, because oftentimes I would not hear this feedback until my every 6-month performance review, and that was not enough for me. I needed to hear it more. And what I heard was that you can be challenging to work with, Russ. Does anybody ever want to hear that? Do you ever want to? No. And I took it to heart. It didn't feel good to hear that, but I didn't really know how to change because I didn't realize at the time how I was viewing other people. I didn't realize that the reason that I was challenging to work with was because I was pushing people away. You know, I was creating this little bubble of safety around myself, and I wasn't opening my heart to my inherent good, but also that mirrored inherent good that's in each and every one of us. So all of my reactions, they were based on fear. They were based on fear of what could happen if I open myself up just a little bit more to others. But our spiritual practice, our opportunity to grow up a little bit in our spiritual practice, is finding a way to, no matter what the circumstances are, act out of love, to act from a place of knowing that inherent goodness that is within every single person, no matter how much they're acting a fool. And it's hard. It is hard, but it's so worth it. This work that we do to build the awareness of how we see the world allows us to evolve. And I love that word evolve, because that's what I feel like we're always doing. Even if we're not conscious of it, we're always evolving. We're always growing. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer, and that's why we have communities like this, because I know we like to kind of supercharge our development here with our spiritual practices, and that's awesome. But what I found through my own personal evolution was that, oh my word, life is so much easier when you're not a jerk. It really is. Who knew? Who knew that it was so much easier to not be a jerk? I know we laugh because it's so obvious, and yet Can you think of opportunities where you, opportunities, can you think of moments in your lives where you've not maybe shown up with your best self, yeah? Like raise of hands, who has not shown up with their best self, maybe in the past week? I'm just gonna keep my hand up here. I appreciate your courage in outing yourself there too, I really do. I can tell you that my life got so much easier when I took that moment to have that honest conversation with myself to really think about, like, why is it that I push people away? Why do I do that? And so let me tell you the ending to my story with our Google Classroom rollout. So what we were tasked to do is we had a scheduling system that had all of our class schedules for all of our students and our teachers, that our schools were responsible for filling those out because, of course, the schools are closest to the students and they know what needs to happen. And we had to get, which was about 100,000 classes, by the way, get 100,000 classes moved over to Google Classroom. Yeah, easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Now, the problem is that Google Classroom was not developed for an enterprise our size. It was developed for, a much smaller school district, one where they could have people manually creating things. But we decided early on that we wouldn't be able to do that. That's a huge ask to ask a bunch of teachers who are going to be asked to teach in a way they've never done before. And oh, by the way, make sure you create your own Google Classroom and get all of your schedule stuff on there so that we can make sure all of our kids are on track. That's not something that we could ask our teachers to do. So we were tasked with moving all of this data over into a system that was not really designed to accept that much data. And for us to do that, I had to work with so many other teams. It really, truly took a village for this to get done. And if I had done it, and I'm going to own that I wasn't perfect throughout this process, by the way. I was still working through my jerkness, but I had done so much work beforehand to get to that point that when I would go into meetings, I would just be thinking to myself, how can I bring the presence of love into this meeting? Because I know I have to trust that that presence of love is going to allow us to find a way to do the thing that nobody thinks that we can do. And we did it. We were able to start school on time the day after Labor Day. We were able to have, at least as far as our schools themselves were able to have their own data entered in their student information systems. You can't take data from a system if it doesn't exist, right? You got to have something to move over. But we were able to have those Google Classrooms set up for all of our teachers and for all of our students for day one. And we did something that no other school district our size in the entire country did. It takes a village. And I believe that my ability to shift through that and to bring that presence of love into every single one of those meetings, and indeed that presence of possibility into all of those meetings, is one of the factors that allowed us to be able to do that. By the way, we did all of that in 1 month. Yeah. I know, and I'm very proud of the work that we did. Of course, it was not perfect. There were still a lot of challenges. I think any teacher who has taught a class in the last year would tell you they never want to see another, Google Meet or another Zoom again. They never want to do remote learning again, and I feel that. Because it's really hard, especially when you've got, little kids like kindergartners that they can't even use a computer. How are you going to get them onto a Google Classroom and a Google Meet? And I give so much love to the parents too, because the parents were just amazing throughout this whole thing. So that's the power. It can make our lives easier when we can look back at our worldview and see our opportunities for healing. Transcending these limited ways of being, while still including the need and the truth within them, is really the key for us to move from seeing our world with eyes that might be tainted by fear and limitation to seeing a world that is rooted in love, inclusion, possibility, and wholeness. So how do we do that? What did I do? Well, I got curious. I got radically curious, not just with how I was showing up, but also curious about how other people were experiencing me. And man, that's hard. It's really hard because our ego likes to come up and be like, I am perfect. Why are you looking at me? Just go away. I don't want to deal with you. That's what my ego sounds like. But how, and the question that I would have you take into the weeks to come is how can we become more curious about our own ways of viewing the world, but also how can we become curious about how others view the world? How can we better listen to what's going on in the world, listen to others, especially those with whom we disagree, without wanting to change everyone? And I got to remind myself of that all the time because, oh boy, there's so many people that I wish I could just snap my fingers and they would change. But that's not how change works. We are the only ones who can change ourselves. And as we become more curious about our own and others' worldviews, what we can start to discern are those values, those needs that are rooted in them, even if they're showing up in what we might define as an unhealthy way. And what's really cool about values, I've found, and needs, is that they tend to be universal. And because they are universal, as Board President Nancy spoke our values that we work around here at the Center for Spiritual Living, these values connect us together. They are common ground that we can use to be in better relationship with one another. We might have disagreements about how those are fulfilled in the world, but what we can all come back to is that we all want to have love, don't we? Yeah? We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel prosperous. We all want to feel like we are in control of our lives. We all want to be in community in a way where we feel valued and where we can be fulfilled and we can be useful. These are all universal values that we can discover when we start to look at our own ways of viewing the world and also the ways that others view the world. And that's really helpful too when we find ourselves in conflict, because rather than being stuck on maybe our desire to be right and how these values come out, we can go back to the values themselves and say, I value this. Do you value the same thing that I do? And more often than not, it'll be yes. And then we can connect on that and we can say, all right, then how can we find a collaborative way to express this value and to bring it into our lives? So rather than just talk at you about that, I would like to close us out with a practice that I have found helpful with this. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. Let's take in a deep breath. Breathe it out. And I'd like you to picture an area of your life where you feel like you might be stuck. An area of your life where perhaps you might feel that you're not being as healthy as you could be. And once you have this area of your life that you're examining, ask yourself the question, what do you feel that you are needing in this area of your life? And now ask yourself, how is it that you go about fulfilling this need? Imagine in your mind how you would usually go about fulfilling this need. What are you doing to fulfill it? How are you acting? And importantly, how do other people, if they're involved with this need, react to you? People are such an amazing mirror. And now this is the fun part. We're going to zoom out. Zoom out and view yourself from afar, fulfilling this need in the way that you usually do? How does it feel to observe yourself fulfilling this need now? And it's okay if it might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but there's really no need for judgment. Everything's okay. Just simply observe and pay close attention to any feelings that come up. Now, finally, as you're zoomed out, I invite you to imagine the healthiest way that this need could be fulfilled. Ask yourself the question, how might you transcend your old way of fulfilling this need in your life while still including what's true about this need? Take a moment to really imagine what this looks like, how you might be acting, what you might be doing, and how other people might be reacting to you. And feel into that. Here's a hint, it should feel good. Now come back to the room. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. How was that? You're all so quiet, so either it was amazing or it was horrible. I'm going to ask Jeff to bring up our slide here for me to close out. There is a superpower that we can express when we zoom out. And what you're looking at here probably looks like, well, it's just kind of random, isn't it? Yeah? And I know our projectors are a little bit small, but you might see that, it looks like there's some apples in there. There's a lion in there. There's some other fun images. But pretend that you are one of those images. One of those images represents you and your perspective. I like to pretend that I'm the lion. And it's hard to see what's around us, isn't it? We're pretty limited. It's pretty hard to see any kind of pattern or order in that. But when we start to zoom out, and we can do the next slide, please, Jeff, we start to see that maybe something more takes form. We get a little bit of a bigger idea of what might be going on. There might be a little bit more divine order, but we still can't quite see it. And so we do a little bit more work. And do the last slide. And the more work we do, the more we start to see an image take form. And I hear some laughter here from those who recognize the founder of our movement, Dr. Ernest Holmes. Being able to zoom out our perspective on the ways that we view the world, to enlarge our view of the world, to be rooted in spiritual principle of love, of life, of joy, of wholeness. That is truly how we can create a world that works for everyone. So that's my invitation for you into the weeks and the months to come. Does that sound good? All right, then let's pray. How good it is to simply settle into this divine presence, to recognize and know the one mind, the one presence, the one power in back of all of life and creation, this thing that I call God, that I know is life itself, that I know sees and experiences only good. And it is that I focus my attention on here and now, knowing that I am one with it because it is truly all that there is, and knowing that each and every beautiful person here in our sanctuary, on our live stream, and indeed throughout the entire world, we are all one with the one. We are one with this perfect, infinite, divine presence. And I just know for us here and now that there is a deep and profound opening of our hearts to be able to see with the eyes of the divine. To see that indeed all that is happening is good. No matter what the world might look like, I say here and now that we are able to see through the eyes of love, through the eyes of trust, through the eyes of inherent good. And it is for that that I am so, so grateful for the fulfillment of this prayer. And I simply release my word into the action of the law. I know that it is done. And together we say, and so it is. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. I don't know about you, but I really saw myself in that message. And in fact, I'm going to have my own confession for you after I share some announcements with you. So, what's happening at the center? Registration for our fall classes is open on our website, cslsr.org, and we have a number of classes starting this week. So if you'd like to experience any of those classes, registration would be today for those. Let me share with you the 3 that are starting this week. First is Advanced Spiritual Living. That starts tomorrow, September 13th. Next, Consciousness, Key to Personal Spiritual Growth. That's with Reverend Tara Steele, and that starts tomorrow as well. And then Life Goes On, The Wisdom of Howard Thurman, with Reverend Tara Steele and Lawrence Edwards. That starts on Tuesday, September 14th. And all of those details on those classes are on the website. Speaking of classes, did you know that when you take one of our core classes, you get a completion certificate from our larger organization, Centers for Spiritual Living? You do. I didn't know that for a long time, but you do. And actually, if you took any classes while the center was closed or from 2014 and to this current date, you can stop by the information table in the social hall to pick up your certificate. They'll be available this week and next week. If you get out there and you think there should be a certificate for you, but there isn't one, you can email Linda Almeida, our education coordinator, and she will take care of getting that sorted out for you. Now, speaking of Linda, Linda is retiring from her position, so we have an open part-time position on the center staff for an education coordinator. If you are interested or if you know anyone who might be interested, there is a notice about that position in the bulletin on the website, and there you'll find contact information for Chandra Farnsworth, and she has more information and the application. And then today, something for you. Our Being and Belonging discussion group returns this afternoon from 1:30 to 3 o'clock. That's on Zoom. And their theme today is divinity, oneness, and the co-creative power of love. Join us as we explore the ways in which our deep beingness informs our sense of belonging and how bringing this awareness into the world is a radical act of social change. The Zoom link is, of course, on the website. Look under the Events and Classes tab and Groups, and there you'll find the information. Some good things going on this week. Okay, now, my confession, and it's actually a little bit of a short story for you, and an invitation. And I'm going to start with the invitation. The Center's Board of Trustees is beginning the search for the 3 people who will join the board next March. My invitation to you today is to ask yourself if it's time for you to explore being a trustee. Do you know how someone becomes a trustee? Anyone know? Well, it starts with volunteering in some capacity, like at the bookstore, or cleaning or weeding during the week or Sundays as a greeter or an usher. Or actually any of the ways you may have volunteered in the past or doing so now. It starts with volunteering. And then it starts with noticing how much you love the center and the teachings of the science of mind. And then noticing that you'd like a deeper connection with the center and a stake in its future. Okay, now the story and the confession. It's about an earlier version of me, the one that came to the center for the first time in 2016. That person was scared, self-conscious, and very uncomfortable. It's true. That's who came to the center. I would stealth in on Sunday mornings and then stealth right out, no talking to anybody. The first class I signed up for, I dropped out of after the first session. And the first time I volunteered, I thought I was going to throw up. I did. It was not a good time. What I realized is I was terrified of being seen, of truly being seen and found out. Ooh. The thing is, I didn't know yet about the central teaching, or the central tenet of our teaching, which is oneness. I didn't know that people were actually, truly, genuinely interested in me simply because I was here. And I was carrying around a few beliefs, you know, those hidden beliefs, some of those things that Reverend Russ just talked about, that weren't at all helpful. But what I did was I kept saying yes to classes, to volunteering, and I even joined the center's AIDS life cycle team. You know, the group that spent 7 days cycling from San Francisco to LA? I said yes to that. And then I said yes to serving on the board of trustees. I say yes because every time I do, my life gets richer. My relationships get deeper and more fulfilling. And not for nothing, but I have completely transformed my relationship to time. From there's not enough, and I'm not sharing it with anyone, especially you, to there being plenty of it to do everything I want to do. I am still sometimes scared and self-conscious and uncomfortable, but oh my goodness, I am satisfied in my life. And a lot of that has to do with serving on the board of trustees. So my invitation to you to explore becoming a trustee, if you would like to accept my invitation, please stop by the information table. We have some information about it. And you can also stop by the website, cslsr.org, and look for the section called Be a Trustee on the homepage. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Hello, good friends of Science of Mind. My name is Tom Nilsson, a licensed practitioner here at the center. And I'm here today to invite you to join me for an accredited core class that I will be facilitating starting on September 23rd. And I think you're really, really going to like this one. It is the creative process in the individual using the book by the same title written by Thomas Troward, who is integral to our Science of Mind philosophy. We will journey together using Troward's book as our guide, and we will lift the altitude of our thinking as we dive deeper, much deeper into the consciousness of being. Instead of living by the law of averages, Troward shows us that we are truly artists of infinite possibilities. So let your creativity flow and flourish. Join me on this beautiful road of divine self-discovery. A shift in consciousness is waiting on you. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Spencer Sherman, and I'm super excited to be having a conversation with Dr. Edward Vilhune around money on September 15th, Wednesday at noon Pacific time. So what does mindfulness have to do with money? Well, I've been a financial advisor for over 30 years, and it's my mindfulness and spiritual practices that have brought me more success than anything. In this world where we can never have enough, we don't have enough time, enough friends, enough money, enough stuff. We always want more. This idea of enough can liberate us. Enough is a boundless state. And we're going to be sharing the 4 higher emotions that lead to this place of enoughness. What if who you are is already enough without any alteration? Let's dive in and explore this fascinating topic, this boundless sense of enough on September 15th at noon. I'll see you there.
All right, let's close this thing out, shall we? Before we close, I'd like to give you our after-service prayer. And that happens on Zoom after the 9 a.m. and the 11 a.m. service. Please give yourself the gift of this. This is one of the best ways that we can grow, because what I find is that when I'm in my stuff, when I feel like things are really hard, it's sometimes really hard for me to pray for myself. And it's so useful and helpful for me to have a friend who can do that with me. So check that out. You can find the link for it on our website. And yeah, let's do this thing. So please know with me that you are never alone, that Spirit is where you are, that you have only to look within at any moment to know that you are guided, sustained, empowered by a presence that expresses itself as you in the world. In deepest gratitude, let us live our lives accordingly, so that in everything that we do, say, and think, we honor this presence within. And so it is. All right, have a great week, everyone.
So let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. So let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. So let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new